The stars looked different out here. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched the view screen display a sector of space that no human had ever seen before. His ship had traveled farther than any vessel in Earth's short history of faster-than-light travel. 3 months ago, humanity had finally cracked the secret of jumping between stars. Now they were out here exploring, mapping, hoping to find friends in the endless dark. Jake was in his mid-40s with gray starting to show in his dark hair. He had spent 20 years in Earth's military before signing up for this expedition. He knew how to stay calm when things got dangerous. He also knew that staying calm didn't mean you couldn't crack a joke or two. "Captain, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Amy Pierce said from her station. She was the tactical officer. A sharp woman in her early 30s with red hair tied back in a tight bun. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. Multiple contacts, big ones. "They're not broadcasting any signals we recognize." Jake felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his voice steady. "How many?" 6 ships. No, wait, 8. "They're bigger than us, Captain. A lot bigger." Dr. Kyle Bennett looked up from his science station. He was the ship's medical officer and xenobiologist. A curious man who had spent the entire journey hoping they would meet alien life. "This is it," he said quietly. "First contact. Let's hope they're friendly," Jake said. He pressed a button on his chair's armrest. "All hands, this is the captain. We have contact with unknown vessels. Everyone to stations. Stay calm and follow procedures." The alien ships appeared on the view screen moments later. They were massive, dark gray vessels that looked like they had been designed for war. Sharp edges, heavy armor plating, and what were clearly weapon ports covering every surface. The largest ship was at least 3 times the size of the horizon's edge. "They're hailing us," Amy said. "Audio and video. Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen was not human. It was reptilian, with scales that shimmered between green and bronze. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils stared at Jake with an expression that might have been contempt. The creature wore what looked like military armor, decorated with symbols that probably meant rank and honor. "I am Commander Zarthok of the Vextari Empire," the alien said. The translation software worked perfectly, turning his hissing speech into clear English. "You have entered territory claimed by the Empire. Identify yourselves." Jake stood up, trying to look confident but not aggressive. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. We're explorers from Earth. We didn't know this space was claimed." "We mean no harm." Zarthok's eyes narrowed. "Humans, we have not heard of your species. How did you acquire faster-than-light travel?" "We developed it ourselves," Jake said. "We're new to this part of space. We're looking for peaceful contact with other civilizations." The Vextari commander made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it wasn't friendly. "Peace. Every primitive species speaks of peace when they first leave their world. Then they discover that space is not peaceful. It belongs to the strong." He leaned forward. "The Vextari have ruled this sector for 3,000 years. We did not achieve this through peace. We achieved it through strength and honor." Jake didn't like where this was going. "We don't want any trouble, Commander. We'll leave your space immediately." "You misunderstand," Zarthok said. "You cannot simply leave. The Vextari do not permit unknown species to wander freely near our borders. You must prove your worthiness. You will submit to a combat trial. If you survive, you may petition for the right to travel through our territory. If you refuse, we will destroy you as a threat to the Empire." The screen went dark. Jake looked at his crew. Amy's hands were already moving across her console, bringing weapons and shields online. Kyle looked pale but determined. The other bridge crew members were silent, waiting for orders. "Well," Amy said, breaking the silence, "that went badly." Jake sat back down in his chair. "Opinions?"
"They outgun us by a significant margin," Amy said.
8 ships to our 1, and each of those ships has more firepower than we do. If this turns into a straight fight, we lose. Can we run?" Jake asked. "They're surrounding us. We'd have to break through their formation. They'd shoot us to pieces before we could jump." Kyle spoke up. "So we fight, or we die trying to run. Those are our options?" Jake thought for a moment. Then he smiled just a little. "There's a third option. We fight, but we do it smart. Amy, what's the terrain like around here?" Amy pulled up a tactical display. "There's a debris field about 10,000 kilometers ahead. Old asteroid mining operation looks like. Lots of rocks, metal fragments, dead equipment. Perfect. We lure them in there. Use the debris as cover. Make them work for it." Jake opened a channel to the entire ship. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to get into a fight. I won't lie to you, the odds aren't great. But we're humans. We've been beating bad odds since we lived in caves. Stay sharp, stay focused, and remember your training. Morrison out. The Vextari ships moved into attack formation. The horizon's edge turned and accelerated toward the debris field. Plasma bolts lit up space behind them as the alien ships opened fire. Evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. The ship rolled and twisted, dodging most of the incoming fire. A few shots hit their shields, making the lights flicker on the bridge. Shields at 80%, Amy reported. They're not playing around. Neither are we. Get us into that debris field. The horizon's edge plunged into the field of floating junk. Huge chunks of metal and rock drifted everywhere. The pilot, Lieutenant Alex Harper, flew the ship through narrow gaps and around obstacles with skill that came from years of simulator training and natural talent. She hummed quietly to herself as she worked, a habit that usually annoyed Jake but right now was oddly comforting. The Vextari ships followed them in. They were bigger and less maneuverable, which meant they had to slow down and be more careful. Good, Jake said. Now we have a chance. Amy, can you get a shot? Working on it. Amy's fingers danced across her console. The ship shuddered as their main cannon fired. The shot hit one of the pursuing Vextari vessels right in the engine section. The alien ship spun out of control and crashed into a large piece of debris. Yes, Amy shouted. Then she laughed. Did you see that? Did you see that? Jake found himself grinning. Nice shot, Lieutenant. 7 more to go, 7 more. Oh, is that all? Amy said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. No problem. I'll just shoot them all before lunch. Kyle laughed at that, a slightly hysterical sound. If we survive this, I'm buying you whatever you want for lunch. More plasma fire lit up the space around them. The horizon's edge twisted and turned, using the debris for cover. Every time a Vextari ship got too close, Amy would fire, damaging shields or hitting weapons. They weren't destroying ships anymore, but they were making the aliens work for every meter. Captain, they're trying to box us in, Alex said, still humming between words. 3 ships moving to cut off our escape route. Then we don't go that way. Take us deeper into the field. Deeper? Captain, it's getting pretty crowded in here. Good. They're bigger than us. Less room to maneuver means we have the advantage. Alex pulled the ship into a spiral around a massive piece of what looked like an old space station. Vextari ships followed, but they couldn't match the tight turns. One alien vessel scraped against the debris, tearing a hole in its hull. Atmosphere vented into space in a white cloud. They're not giving up, Amy said. These guys are persistent. So are we, Jake said. He was sweating now, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair, but his voice was steady. Keep hitting them. Make them regret starting this fight. On the bridge of the Vextari flagship, Commander Zarthok watched the battle with growing confusion. His crew had been monitoring the human ship's communications. What they heard made no sense. The humans were laughing, not just laughing. They were making jokes, commenting on their situation like it was some kind of game. One of them had just compared his ships to flying lizard cafeterias, whatever that meant. The human captain had chuckled at that. Their pilot was humming music while dodging plasma fire that could vaporize their ship. Commander, his second officer said, the humans are exhibiting unusual behavior. They appear to be enjoying this combat. Zarthok's tail twitched with irritation. That is impossible. They are outnumbered and outgunned. They should be terrified. They should be begging for mercy. Perhaps they do not understand the danger they are in. They are not stupid. They just destroyed one of our ships and damaged 2 others. They know exactly what they are doing. Zarthok studied the tactical display. The human ship was small and fast, using the debris field like a weapon. His own ships were struggling to land clean shots. They fight with skill, but they laugh while they do it. This is wrong. Another Vextari ship took damage, its shields failing under a precise hit from the human vessel. Over the open channel, Zarthok heard the human tactical officer shout, 2 for 2! I'm on fire today. The human captain's voice came through next. Don't get cocky, Lieutenant. We're not out of this yet, but I'm allowed to be excited, right? I'll allow it, they were joking. While fighting for their lives, while facing an enemy that... High Matriarch Velsina sat in her chamber, watching the footage for the 3rd time. Her scales were pale with age, almost white instead of the green bronze of younger Vextari. She had ruled the Empire for 90 years, had seen thousands of battles, had judged countless species. But she had never seen anything like this. The holographic display showed the human ship dancing through the debris field. It showed Vextari vessels, some of the finest warships in the Empire, struggling to land hits on a single small craft. It showed 3 of those warships disabled or damaged, but that was not what troubled her. What troubled her was the audio recording. The humans were laughing. They were making jokes. One of them was humming what their translator identified as music. While fighting for their lives, while facing destruction, while any rational being should have been screaming in terror, Commander Zarthok stood before her, his head bowed in respect. Next to him was Scholar Crixenal, a younger male who studied alien psychology. They had both watched the footage many times. "Explain this to me," Velsina said. Her voice was old and dry, but it carried absolute authority. "Explain why these humans behave this way." Zarthok spoke first. "High Matriarch, I believe they are suffering from a collective madness. No sane species would react to mortal danger with humor. It is illogical. It is against every survival instinct." Crixenal raised a hand tentatively. "If I may offer another perspective, High Matriarch?" Velsina gestured for him to continue. "I have studied the humans' public data transmissions. They are a strange species, yes, but not mad, at least not in the way we understand madness. Their laughter may serve a purpose. Among humans, humor appears to be a tool for managing stress and maintaining group cohesion under pressure." "A tool?" Zarthok's tail lashed with skepticism. "Laughter is not a tool. It is a waste of energy." "Perhaps for us," Crixenal said carefully, "but humans are not Vextari. They evolved differently. Their brains work differently. What seems like madness to us might be sophisticated psychology to them." Velsina considered this. "You are saying that their laughter makes them better fighters?" "I am saying it might prevent them from becoming worse fighters. Fear clouds judgment. Panic leads to mistakes. If their humor reduces these negative effects, then yes, it could improve their combat effectiveness." "This is speculation," Zarthok said. "We need facts. We need to study them more closely." Velsina nodded slowly. "Agreed. Send a boarding party to the human ship. Capture some of them for study. Do not kill them unless necessary. I want to understand what we are dealing with." Aboard the Horizon's Edge, alarms started blaring. Jake was in his quarters trying to get some rest after the battle. He was on his feet and running toward the bridge before his tired brain fully processed what was happening. "Report!" he shouted as he arrived on the bridge. Amy was already at her station. "The Vextari just launched boarding craft. 2 of them heading straight for us. They'll dock in 5 minutes. Can we shoot them down? Not without triggering a full battle. Their warships have weapons locked on us. If we fire, they fire." Jake grabbed the shipwide comm. "All hands prepare to repel boarders. Marines to airlocks 3 and 7. This is not a drill." Sergeant Danny Wright was already gearing up when the order came through. He was a stocky man with a thick beard and a reputation for terrible jokes. His squad of 12 Marines moved with practiced efficiency. "Checking weapons, sealing armor, preparing for close-quarters combat." "All right, listen up," Danny said as they took positions near Airlock 3. "We've got angry space lizards about to come through that door. They're bigger than us, probably stronger than us, and definitely more experienced in combat. But we've got something they don't have." "What's that, Sarge?" one of the Marines asked. "Home field advantage. This is our ship. We know every corridor, every vent, every hiding spot. We're going to use that, and we're going to make them regret coming here." He checked his rifle one more time. "Also, I've got new material. Anyone want to hear my latest joke about aliens?" "Sarge, now is really not the time," another Marine said. "Now is exactly the time." "Why did the alien cross the space station?" Groans from the squad. "Why, Sarge?" "To get to the other airlock." Danny grinned. "Get it, because they're boarding us through airlocks?" More groans, but some of the tension left the squad. They were smiling now, even if the smiles were forced. That was the point. Fear was useful, but too much fear made you slow. A bad joke right before combat. That was just enough distraction to keep everyone sharp. The airlock hissed. Warning lights flashed. Then the door blew open and Vextari warriors poured through. They were big, at least 7 feet tall, covered in armor that looked like it could stop a tank shell. They moved fast, weapons raised, clearly expecting resistance. What they got was Danny's squad opening fire from cover positions. The corridor turned into chaos. Energy bolts flew in both directions. 1 Marine went down, armor smoking but still alive. 2 Vextari dropped. their shields overwhelmed. The aliens advanced, using their size and strength to push forward. "Fall back," Danny ordered. "Pattern Delta." The Marines retreated in a coordinated movement, keeping up suppressing fire. They led the Vextari deeper into the ship, into corridors they had prepared. Suddenly, panels in the ceiling opened. More Marines dropped down behind the aliens, catching them in a crossfire. "Surprise," Danny shouted, grinning behind his helmet. "Welcome to the Horizon's Edge. Sorry about the mess." The Vextari warriors were confused. They were taking fire from multiple directions. The humans were using tactics that made no sense, appearing and disappearing, attacking from unexpected angles, and they were talking. Constantly. Making comments, calling out to each other, even laughing when something worked. One Vextari warrior cornered a human Marine. The alien was bigger, stronger, better armed. The Marine looked up at the towering reptilian, and before the alien could fire, the human said, "Hey, has anyone ever told you that you look like my old biology teacher?" Same eyes. The Vextari hesitated, confused by the comment. That moment of confusion cost him. Another Marine hit him from the side with a stun round, and the big alien went down. Danny was in hand-to-hand combat with a Vextari squad leader. The alien was stronger, but Danny was faster. He ducked under a swipe, rolled past a kick, and hit the alien's weapon with a precise strike that sent it flying. "Tag," Danny shouted, slapping the alien's armor. "You're it." Then he was gone, disappearing through a maintenance hatch. The Vextari stood there, weaponless, staring at the spot where the human had been. What had just happened? What was Tag? Why had the human touched him and then fled? The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, the Vextari boarding party had been forced back to their craft. They had captured no humans. They had lost 6 warriors to injuries, and they were more confused than when they started. Back on the Vextari flagship, Commander Zarthok reviewed the helmet camera footage from his warriors. He watched humans dodge and weave, fight with skill and coordination. He heard them laugh when they scored hits. He saw one of them literally play a children's game in the middle of combat. "This is impossible," he said to Crixnall, who had been watching with him. "They should not be able to fight this well while maintaining such frivolity." Crixnall was making notes on a datapad. "Commander, I have a theory. Their humor is not separate from their fighting ability. It is integrated with it, by keeping their emotional state positive, by maintaining social bonds through shared jokes. They prevent panic and maintain peak performance. It is actually quite sophisticated. You were saying they have weaponized laughter? In a sense, yes. They have turned a psychological defense mechanism into a combat advantage. They are not laughing because they are fearless. They are laughing because they are afraid and refusing to let that fear control them." Zarthok was silent for a long moment. "High Matriarch Velsina needs to hear this. If humans can fight like this while laughing, what will they do when they are angry? What will they do when they are fully prepared for war?" On the Horizon's Edge, the crew was celebrating their victory. They had defended their ship. They had sent the aliens running, and they had done it with only minor casualties. Jake stood in the medical bay, watching Kyle treat the wounded Marine. The injury was not serious, just some burns from an energy weapon. The Marine was already joking about getting a cool scar. "Captain," Kyle said quietly, "I've been thinking about what happened, about how we acted during the fight, and the aliens are probably studying us, trying to figure us out, and what they're seeing is humans who laugh in the face of danger. That's got to be confusing for them." Jake nodded. "It's more than confusing. It's probably scaring them. They don't understand us. They can't predict what we'll do. That makes us dangerous in their eyes, so what do? Stop joking? Hell no. We keep being ourselves. We keep doing what works. If they think we're crazy, let them think it. As long as we survive, I don't care what they believe." Jake smiled. "Besides, Danny's jokes are terrible, but they keep morale up." "I'm not about to tell him to stop." Amy's voice came over the comm. "Captain, you need to see this. We're getting long-range sensor readings. More ships incoming. A lot more ships." Jake's smile faded. "On my way." He looked at Kyle. "Keep our people." The conference room on the Unity was designed for diplomacy. Soft lighting, comfortable seats, a large table that could seat representatives from multiple species. Right now it held humans on one side, and a holographic projection of Vexitari leaders on the other. Jake sat between Commander Lisa Grant of the Defiant and Ambassador Claire Martinez, who had arrived on the Unity specifically to handle first contact situations. Claire was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for being able to talk her way out of anything. She wore a diplomatic uniform and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. On the Vextari side, Commander Zarthok sat with High Matriarch Velsina and several other officials. The old leader looked ancient but alert, her pale scales catching the light. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Claire said, starting the conversation. "We believe there has been a misunderstanding. Humans came to this sector in peace. We did not mean to intrude on your territory." Zarthok spoke before Velsina could respond. "You defended yourselves well. Too well for a species that claims to be peaceful." Lisa leaned forward. "We defend ourselves when attacked. That doesn't make us warlike. That makes us survivors." "You laugh while fighting," Zarthok said. "This is not the behavior of survivors. This is the behavior of the insane." Jake couldn't help himself. He chuckled. "You think we're crazy because we have a sense of humor?" "I think you are unpredictable," Zarthok said. "And unpredictability is dangerous." Velsina raised a clawed hand and Zarthok fell silent. The old matriarch studied the humans for a long moment. "You humans are unusual. We have encountered hundreds of species. None of them behave as you do. None of them find joy in combat. None of them make jokes while their lives are in danger. Explain this to us." Claire looked at Jake, who shrugged. "We're human," he said simply. "Humor is part of who we are. It's how we cope with stress. It's how we stay sane when things get difficult. We don't laugh because we're fearless. We laugh because we're afraid and we refuse to let fear win." Lisa added, "There's an old Earth saying, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. We choose to laugh." Velsina tilted her head, a gesture that might have meant curiosity. "And this makes you better warriors?" "It makes us better humans," Jake said. "Whether that makes us better warriors, you've already seen the answer to that." Before Velsina could respond, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the Unity. A voice came over the ship-wide comm. "All hands to battle stations. Multiple hostile contacts incoming." "This is not a drill." Jake was on his feet immediately. "What's happening?" Lisa was checking her wrist computer. "Unknown vessels jumping in. Lots of them. They're not broadcasting identification." On the holographic display, Zarthok was getting information too. His scales darkened with anger. "Clore Dominion. They must have been monitoring this sector. They saw our forces gathered here and decided to attack while we are distracted." "Who are the Clore?" Claire asked. "Raiders. Pirates. They have been testing our borders for years." Velsina's voice was grim. "They are cowards who strike when they believe they have an advantage. They see human and Vextari ships together and assume we are about to destroy each other. They hope to scavenge what remains." Jake looked at the Vextari leaders. "So we have a choice. We can fight each other like the Clore expect, or we can fight them together." Zarthok looked like he wanted to argue. Velsina spoke first. "A temporary alliance of necessity. We will deal with the Clore threat. Then we will resume our discussion." "Agreed," Claire said quickly. "Let's show these raiders what happens when they pick the wrong fight." Jake ran back to the horizon's edge, which was docked with the Unity. His crew was already preparing for battle. Amy had weapons ready. Alex was running pre-flight checks. Kyle was making sure medical supplies were stocked. "Captain on the bridge," Amy announced as Jake took his seat. "Status report," Jake ordered. 20 Clore ships, various sizes. They're coming in fast and aggressive. Human and Vextari fleets are coordinating. Sort of. It's a bit chaotic. Amy pulled up the tactical display. The Clore are using a pincer formation. They're trying to split us up. Then we don't split up. Coordinate with the Vextari. Match their formation. Show the Clore that they're not dealing with confused enemies. They're dealing with an alliance." The space battle that erupted was massive and chaotic. Human ships fought alongside Vextari vessels for the first time. The Clore were aggressive but not particularly skilled. They relied on numbers and surprise. They had neither advantage now. Lieutenant Alex Harper flew the horizon's edge like it was an extension of her own body. She wove through weapons fire, dodged debris, positioned the ship perfectly for Amy to take shots. And the whole time she was humming. "Alex, what are you humming?" Jake asked as the ship rolled to avoid a missile. "Old song, Captain. Don't Stop Believin'. My dad used to play it when I was learning to fly." A plasma bolt hit their shields. The ship shook. Warning lights flashed across the console. "Shields at 40%, Amy reported. Then she laughed. "This is insane. We're in a three-way space battle with aliens we just met. fighting other aliens we've never seen before, and Alex is humming classic rock. Focus, Lieutenant, Jake said, but he was smiling. Save the commentary for after we win. Win? Captain, we're going to destroy these guys. They have no idea what they're dealing with. Amy fired again, hitting a Clore ship's engine. The vessel spun out of control. 3 down, 17 to go. On the Vextari flagship, Zarthok monitored the battle and the human communications. Once again, the humans were laughing. Once again, they were making jokes while fighting for their lives. But this time, he was starting to understand. Scholar Crixnall was at his station recording everything. Commander, observe the human pilot in Vessel Horizon's Edge. Her shields are failing, her ship is taking damage, and she is humming music. Her hands are steady. Her maneuvers are precise. The humor is not interfering with her performance. It is enhancing it. Zarthok watched as the human ship executed a barrel roll that shouldn't have been possible for a vessel that size. It dodged 3 different weapon strikes and positioned itself to help a damaged Vextari cruiser. They are protecting our ships, he said, surprised. They consider us allies now. Temporary allies, but allies nonetheless. Humans form bonds quickly, it seems. Another human ship, the Defiant, moved to intercept 3 Clore vessels that were targeting a Vextari destroyer. Commander Lisa Grant's voice came over the shared tactical channel. Vextari destroyer, this is Defiant. We're coming to assist. Hold your position. The Vextari captain responded. Acknowledged, Defiant. Your assistance is appreciated. Lisa laughed over the comm. Don't sound so surprised. We're on the same side now, remember? Let's give these Clore raiders something to think about. The Defiant opened fire with everything it had. The Clore ships scattered, unprepared for such aggressive tactics. One took critical damage and exploded. The other 2 retreated, only to fly directly into weapons range of the Vextari destroyer. Good shooting, the Vextari captain said. You too, Lisa responded. Maybe we should do this more often. The battle lasted an hour. By the end, the Clore fleet was in full retreat. They had lost half their ships and gained nothing. The combined human Vextari force had suffered casualties, but far fewer than if they had fought separately. Jake stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Edge, watching the Clore ships jump away. His ship was damaged but intact. His crew was tired but alive. Around them, human and Vextari vessels held position, neither side sure what to do next. Captain? Amy said quietly. We just fought alongside aliens. We saved their ships. They saved ours. That's gotta mean something. It means we're not enemies anymore, Jake said. At least I hope it means that. Whether it means we're friends, that's still up for debate. A communication request came through from the Vextari flagship. Jake accepted it. Commander Zarthok appeared on the screen. The reptilian warrior looked tired, his armor scorched from battle. Captain Morrison, Zarthok said, you fought well. Your crew fought well. You protected Vextari vessels when you could have focused on your own survival. You did the same for us, Jake replied. That's what allies do. Allies. Zarthok seemed to taste the word. Yes, perhaps. High Matriarch Velsina requests another meeting. There is much to discuss. We'll be there, Jake said. Zarthok nodded. Then awkwardly he added, your pilot? The one who hums. She flies very well. Alex looked up from her console, surprised. Thank you, Commander. You've got some pretty good pilots yourself. They do not hum while fighting. Maybe they should try it, Alex said with a grin. It helps. Zarthok looked confused but didn't argue. The transmission ended. Kyle came up to the bridge from medical. All our wounded are stable. Nothing life-threatening. We got lucky. It wasn't luck, Jake said. It was skill. Ours and theirs. We worked together. That made the difference. Amy was reviewing the battle data. Captain, I've been analyzing the Vextari tactics. They're good. Really good. Disciplined, coordinated, effective. But they're also rigid. They follow patterns. We're more flexible, more creative. Because we joke around? Alex asked. Maybe. Or maybe because joking around helps us think outside the box. Helps us see solutions that aren't in the manual. Amy looked at Jake. The Vextari noticed that. They're probably still trying to figure out if it's an... The moon was small and cold, barely large enough to have proper gravity. It orbited a gas giant in a system nobody cared about, which made it perfect for what both sides needed. A place to rest, repair, and figure out what came next. Both human and Vextari ships set down on the rocky surface. Engineers from both species worked to patch hull damage and repair systems. There was no formal agreement, no treaty, just an unspoken understanding that after fighting together, they deserved a break before deciding if they were still enemies. Sergeant Danny Wright stood outside the horizon's edge, watching his squad check their equipment. The battle with the Clore had used up a lot of ammunition and damaged some of their armor. They needed to be ready in case trouble started again. About 50 meters away, a group of Vextari warriors were doing the same thing. Danny watched them work, noting how precise and methodical they were. Everything by the book. Everything according to procedure. It was impressive, but also kinda sad. Where was the personality? Where was the fun? One of the Vextari broke away from his group and walked toward the humans. He was tall, even for his species, with dark bronze scales and armor that looked like it had seen 1,000 battles. He stopped a few meters away, studying Danny with those unsettling yellow eyes. "You are the one who played the game," the Vextari said. His translator made his voice sound rough and formal. "During the boarding action, you touched me and said, 'Tag.'" Danny grinned. "Yeah, that was me. Sorry about that. Heat of the moment, you know. I am War Master Throckvin. I command the ground forces for Commander Zarthok's fleet." The alien tilted his head. "What is tag?" "It's a children's game," Danny explained. "One person is it. They chase the others and try to touch them. When they do, that person becomes it instead. It's just for fun." Throckvin was silent for a moment. "You compared our combat to a children's game." "No, I made a joke during combat." "There's a difference." Danny gestured to a nearby rock. "You want to sit? You look like you got questions, and standing around in full armor gets old after a while." Throckvin considered this, then sat. Danny sat next to him. The Vextari was much bigger, but sitting down evened things out a bit. "I have watched the recordings of your species in combat," Throckvin said. "You laugh. You make jokes. You hum music. This is not normal. This is not how warriors behave. Maybe not your warriors," Danny said. "But human warriors have been doing this for thousands of years. It's part of who we are. Why?" The question was simple but genuine. "Why do you laugh when you should feel terror?" Danny thought about how to explain it. "Because if we don't laugh, we'll cry. And crying doesn't help anybody win a fight." He picked up a small rock and tossed it from hand to hand. "Look, combat is terrifying. I've been in plenty of battles, and every single time there's a part of my brain screaming at me to run away. Fear is normal. Fear keeps you alive. Then why laugh? Why make jokes? Because fear can also paralyze you, make you stupid, make you slow. We use humor to control the fear instead of letting it control us. When I crack a joke, it reminds me that I'm still human. I'm still me. The situation might be terrible, but I'm not broken. I'm not giving up." Throckvin was quiet for a long time. "Your species has a saying. You shared it during the diplomatic meeting. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. This is about choice. You choose to laugh instead of surrendering to fear." "Exactly," Danny said. "We're not fearless. We're not crazy. We're just refusing to let the universe break us. And you know what? It works. My squad fights better when we're joking around. We stay calm. We think clearly. We work together. The laughter isn't despite the danger. It's because of the danger. Vextari warriors are taught to embrace discipline, to suppress emotion, to become one with the mission. And I bet that works great for you," Danny said. "Different species, different methods. But humans? We're emotional creatures. We love, we hate, we laugh, we cry. Trying to suppress all that would be like trying to suppress breathing. So instead we channel it. We use it. We turn our fear into jokes and our stress into humor." Throckvin looked at his clawed hands. "In our history we have fought many species. Some were stronger than us. Some were smarter. Some had better technology. We defeated them all through discipline and honor. But humans, you are something new. You fight with skill, yes, but also with something we do not understand. Joy. You find joy even in battle. Not joy in the killing," Danny clarified. "We're not psychopaths. We find joy in being alive. In being with our squad. In overcoming challenges. The fact that the challenge involves people shooting at us, that's just details. This makes humans unpredictable. Yeah, probably. But it also makes us flexible. We adapt, we improvise. We think outside the box because we're not locked into rigid patterns. Sometimes that means doing something crazy like playing tag with an enemy soldier." Danny grinned. Sorry about that again, by the way. Throckvin made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was harsh and brief, but it was definitely a laugh. It was effective. I was confused. In that moment of confusion, you escaped. It was a valid tactic, see? You're starting to get it. They sat in silence for a while, watching their respective squads work. Finally, Throckvin spoke again. Your species has been in space for how long? A few months with faster-than-light travel. We've had slower ships for about 300 years. The Vextari have traveled the stars for 5,000 years. We have seen much, conquered much, but never have we encountered a species like yours. You are young, inexperienced, technologically inferior, yet you fight as equals. This is troubling. Troubling because you don't know what we'll do next. Troubling because I do not know if we are your enemies or your allies. Troubling because I watched human ships protect Vextari vessels during the battle. You had no reason to do so. You gained nothing from it. Yet you did it anyway, Danny shrugged. We were fighting on the same side. That makes you allies, at least temporarily. Humans don't abandon allies. It's not in our nature. Even if those allies were your enemies hours before, especially then. Look, humans have a long history of fighting each other. We've had thousands of wars on our home planet. Millions dead, terrible atrocities. But we also have a history of former enemies becoming friends. Countries that fought brutal wars are now close allies. It's what we do. We fight, we make peace, we move on. We're good at adapting. Throckvin stood up. I must report this conversation to my commanders. They are trying to understand humans. I believe I am beginning to understand. You are not insane. You are not fearless. You simply refuse to accept defeat, even in the face of overwhelming odds. You laugh at death because the alternative is to fear it. And fear, you have decided, is the true enemy. Danny stood as well. That's pretty much it, yeah? One more question, Throckvin said. If humans and Vextari were to fight a true war, not a skirmish or a test, but a full war of extermination, would you still laugh? Danny met the alien's yellow eyes. Probably. Not because we think it's funny, but because we'd need to laugh to keep ourselves sane. To remember why we're fighting. To remember what we're trying to protect. He paused. But I really hope we never have to find out. I'd rather be your friend than your enemy, Throckvin. The Vextari warrior nodded slowly. As would I, Danny, right? As would I. Aboard the Vextari flagship, High Matriarch Velsina listened to Throckvin's report. Scholar Crixnell sat beside her taking notes. Commander Zarthok stood at attention, his expression unreadable. So the human sergeant confirms what Scholar Crixnell has theorized, Velsina said when Throckvin finished. Their humor is a weapon, not a weapon against us but against their own fear. They have weaponized their own psychology. More than that, High Matriarch Crixnell said. They have mastered something that we have not. The ability to face the void with joy rather than just stoic duty. Our warriors are brave, yes. Disciplined, yes. But humans have found a way to be brave while also being happy. It is a sophisticated form of emotional regulation. Zarthok spoke up. Does this make them more dangerous or less dangerous, High Matriarch? Velsina considered the question. Both and neither. They are unpredictable, which makes them dangerous. But they are also capable of cooperation and friendship, which makes them valuable allies. They protected our ships during the battle. They had no obligation to do so. Yet they did. They form attachments quickly, Crixnell added. In human psychology, there is a concept called in-group bias. Once they consider you part of their group, they will defend you fiercely. During the battle, we temporarily became part of their group. They treated us as they would treat their own. And if we become enemies again? Zarthok asked. Then they will fight us with everything they have, Velsina said. They will laugh while doing it, and they will not stop until one side surrenders or is destroyed. This is what makes them formidable. Not their technology, which is inferior to ours. Not their experience, which is minimal. But their psychology, their refusal to accept defeat. Their ability to maintain morale even in impossible situations. What are your orders, High Matriarch? Zarthok asked. Velsina looked out at the stars through the viewport of her chamber. We will propose a formal alliance. Not because we fear humans, though perhaps we should, but because they have proven themselves worthy. The emergency broadcast reached both fleets at the same time. A Vextari colony world, 3 systems away, was under massive attack. The Clor Dominion had returned with reinforcements. They were conducting orbital bombardment. Millions of Vextari civilians were in danger. High Matriarch Velsina's face appeared on every human ship's view screen. She looked old and tired, but her voice was steady. Human vessels. I am requesting military assistance. The Clore have struck at a civilian target in retaliation for their defeat. My fleet will respond, but we are hours away. Your ships are closer. Will you help us? Jake didn't hesitate. We'll help. All human ships prepare to jump. We're going in. Commander Lisa Grant's voice came over the comm from the Defiant. Captain Morrison, we're talking about jumping into a hot combat zone to defend aliens we barely know. I'm in, but I need to say this officially. This is crazy. Jake smiled grimly. Yeah, it is. But we've been doing crazy since we got out here. Why stop now? Fair point, Lisa said. Defiant is ready to jump on your mark. The human fleet jumped into chaos. The colony world was a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green continents, but now parts of it were burning. Clore warships filled the orbital space, pounding the surface with energy weapons. The few Vextari defense ships were badly outnumbered and taking heavy damage. Tactical analysis, Jake ordered as the horizon's edge dropped out of faster-than-light speed. Amy's fingers flew across her console. 42 Clore vessels, multiple ship classes. They've got the Vextari defense fleet pinned down. The flagship is heavily damaged and about to be destroyed. Then we save the flagship first. All human vessels, target priority is the Clore ships attacking that Vextari command vessel. Hit them hard and fast. The 4 human ships dove into battle. The Defiant, being the largest and best armed, led the charge. Lisa Grant's voice came through the tactical channel. All right, people, time to show these raiders what happens when they mess with our friends. And yes, I just called the Vextari our friends. Deal with it. The human ships opened fire in perfect coordination. The Clore had been so focused on the Vextari that they didn't see the humans coming until it was too late. 3 Clore vessels took critical damage in the first volley. 2 more were forced to break off their attack on the Vextari flagship. The Vextari flagship captain's voice came through, rough with damage and exhaustion. Human vessels, your timing is perfect. We are in your debt. Don't mention it, Jake said. Just stay alive. We're going to need all the help we can get. The Clore fleet turned to face the humans. They outnumbered the human ships by more than 10 to 1. The human fleet was small, lightly armed compared to the massive Clore warships, and hundreds of light years from any reinforcements. Amy looked at Jake. Captain, this is going to be rough. Yeah, Jake agreed. But think of the story we'll tell if we survive. Amy laughed. Actually laughed. When we survive, Captain. When we survive. The space battle became a brutal slugging match. The Clore had numbers and firepower. The humans had speed and desperation. And something else. Something the Clore didn't understand. The humans were laughing again. Alex flew the horizon's edge through impossible maneuvers, humming her favorite songs. When a plasma bolt hit their shields and alarms started screaming, she switched to a different tune. Ooh, this is a good part, she said, executing a barrel roll that saved them from 3 more hits. Jake grabbed his armrest as the ship spun. Alex, I love your flying, but maybe focus less on the music and more on not dying. The music helps me focus, Alex said cheerfully. Besides, we're doing great. We've only been hit, 20 times? 23, Amy corrected. But who's counting? She fired the main cannon, hitting a Clore cruiser. Make that 3 ships disabled. We're on a roll. The Defiant was taking the worst of it. Being the biggest human ship, it attracted the most fire. Lisa Grant's voice came through the comm, strained but determined. Defiant to all ships. We're drawing a lot of attention here. Use it. Hit them while they're focused on us. Defiant, you can't take much more damage, Jake said. Then we better win fast. There was an explosion in the background of Lisa's transmission. That was our number 2 reactor. Still got 3 more. We're good. Jake made a decision. Horizon's edge to Defiant. We're coming to you. We'll run interference. Negative Horizon's edge. Stay on mission. Protect the colony. The colony doesn't matter if we lose the Defiant. Alex, get us over there. Amy, prepare to intercept any fire heading for the Defiant. What happened next would become legendary in both human and Vexitari military history. The Horizon's Edge, a ship a tenth the size of the Defiant, flew directly into the line of fire. It positioned itself between the massive human warship and the Clore fleet. Plasma bolts and missiles that should have destroyed the Defiant hit the Horizon's Edge instead. The smaller ship's shields flared, overloaded, and failed. Armor began to burn. Hull breaches opened in 3 sections, and through it all Amy was laughing. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. We're going to die and I can't stop laughing. We're not dying today, Jake said firmly. Alex, emergency maneuvers. Get us out of here. Working on it, Captain. Alex was still humming, though her voice was shaking now. The ship spun and dove, trailing atmosphere and debris. The Defiant had used those precious seconds to reposition and fire a devastating barrage. 5 Clore ships took critical damage. The enemy fleet began to pull back, confused by the humans' willingness to sacrifice themselves for each other. But the battle wasn't over. The Clore regrouped and came at them again. This time, though, they faced more than just 4 human ships. The main Vextari fleet had arrived. 20 Vextari warships dropped out of faster-than-light speed in perfect formation. High Matriarch Velsina's voice filled the tactical channel. All Vextari vessels engage the Clore fleet. Protect the human ships. They have earned our protection. The combined human Vextari fleet tore into the Clore forces. The raiders had expected an easy victory over a lightly defended colony. Instead, they faced coordinated assault from 2 species working together. On the ground, the battle was just as fierce. Clore ground forces had landed in multiple locations. They were trying to capture or kill as many civilians as possible before retreating. Danny Wright's Marine Squad had deployed from the damaged horizons edge. They joined Vextari ground forces in defending a civilian shelter. Thousands of Vextari families were inside, hiding from the bombardment. War Master Throckvin led the Vextari defenders. When he saw Danny and his squad arrive, he actually seemed pleased. Sergeant Wright, your timing once again is perfect. We're getting good at that, Danny said. What's the situation? Clore forces are moving on this shelter. If they breach the doors, civilians will die. Many civilians. We must hold this position. Then we'll hold it. Danny positioned his squad. All right, Marines, you know the drill. We dig in, we don't give up, and we make the other guys regret ever landing on this planet. And remember, no pressure, but we're defending alien civilians now. So let's not mess this up. One of his Marines grinned. No pressure, Sarge, got it. The Clore attack came in waves. They were brutal fighters using heavy weapons and overwhelming force. But they were facing human Marines and Vextari warriors fighting side by side. The humans provided flexibility and creative tactics. The Vextari provided discipline and firepower. Together, they were unstoppable. During the fighting, Throckvin noticed something. The humans were still joking, still encouraging each other with humor. One Marine got hit in the armor, went down, and when he got back up, he said, "That's going to leave a mark. My wife is going to kill me for damaging this armor." His squad laughed. Then they fought harder. Throckvin found himself trying something he had never done in combat. He made a joke. It was terrible. It made no sense. But when he said it, his warriors glanced at him in surprise. Then some of them made their own attempts at humor. And somehow, impossibly, it helped. The Vextari warriors fought with more energy, more spirit. They were still disciplined, still following their training. But now there was something else, a spark. A sense that they were not just doing their duty. They were doing something worth celebrating. Danny noticed it too. Throckvin, was that a joke? Did you just make a joke in the middle of combat? I attempted to, the Vextari warrior admitted. Was it effective? It was terrible, Danny said, grinning behind his helmet. But yeah, it was effective. Your warriors are fighting better. You're learning, my friend. Learning from humans, Throckvin said. Strange, but useful. The shelter held. The combined human Vextari force repelled every Clore assault. When reinforcements finally arrived, the battle was already won. The civilians were safe in orbit. The Clore fleet retreated. They had lost half their ships and gained nothing. The combined fleet pursued them to the edge of the system, making sure they were truly leaving. Aboard what was left of the horizon's edge, Jake received a transmission from High Matriarch Velsina. The old Vextari leader looked exhausted but satisfied. "Captain Morrison," she said, "you risked your ship and your crew to protect my people. You had no obligation to do so, yet you came when called. You fought as if our civilians were your own. This is not the action of strangers. This is the action of allies." 6 months had passed since the battle at the Vextari colony. 6 months since humans and Vextari had officially become allies. 6 months since word had started spreading across the galaxy about the strange new species that laughed while fighting. The news had spread fast. In a galaxy where information traveled at the speed of light between star systems, stories about humans became the talk of every diplomatic channel, every military academy, every trading post and space station. Some species were fascinated. The Zendari Collective, a philosophical civilization of peaceful explorers, sent ambassadors to learn about human psychology. They wanted to understand how humor could be used as a tool for mental health and stress management. Their scholars studied human comedians and psychologists with the same intensity that others studied quantum physics. Other species were terrified. The Grivok clans, a warrior culture that valued aggression and strength, declared humans to be psychologically unstable and potentially dangerous. They quietly pulled back from any border regions near human space, afraid of what the Laughing Warriors might do next. The Clore Dominion, after their 2 defeats, classified human space as forbidden territory. Their military doctrine was updated to include a new rule: avoid human forces whenever possible. If combat is unavoidable, expect unpredictable behavior and psychological warfare. Jake Morrison stood in his new uniform, looking out at Earth from the observation deck of Luna Station. He had been promoted to admiral and given command of humanity's first diplomatic fleet. It was a responsibility he never imagined having when he signed up for that first exploration mission. The Horizon's Edge had been repaired and upgraded. It was now the flagship of a small but growing fleet. More human ships were being built, incorporating technology shared by the Vextari. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. They had allies. They had purpose. They had a future among the stars. Amy Pierce, now a commander, joined him at the window. Strange, isn't it? 6 months ago, we were just explorers hoping to find friendly aliens. Now we're famous across half the galaxy as the species that laughs at death. Famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, Jake said. I heard the Grivok are calling us the Mad Ones. Amy laughed. I like it. Very dramatic. We should put it on t-shirts. You're not taking this seriously enough, Jake said, but he was smiling. Or maybe I'm taking it exactly as seriously as I should. We're humans, Admiral. We survived. We made friends. We changed how the galaxy sees us. And we did it by being ourselves, by refusing to let fear or protocol or expectations change who we are. That's worth smiling about. Scholar Crixinall had written a book about humans. It was called The Warriors Who Laugh: Understanding Human Combat Psychology. It became a bestseller across multiple species, though reactions varied wildly. Some readers found it fascinating. Others found it disturbing. A few Vextari military academies made it required reading, teaching their officers about the psychological advantages of emotional regulation. The book's conclusion was simple but profound. Humans had discovered something that most species had never considered. Fear and joy could coexist. Danger and humor could enhance each other. By accepting their fear and choosing to laugh anyway, humans had unlocked a form of courage that was both practical and revolutionary. Amy had written her own book, though it was much shorter and aimed at a human audience. Laughing in the Face of Danger, a human approach to crisis management, became popular on Earth and the colonies. She argued that humans shouldn't try to suppress their natural tendency toward humor. Instead, they should embrace it as a strength. Other species might not understand, but that was okay. Understanding wasn't required. Effectiveness was special. Today marked the formal signing of the Human-Vexitari Alliance Treaty. Representatives from both governments would meet on a neutral space station to make it official. Jake would be there. Amy would be there. So would Lisa Grant, who had recovered from her injuries and returned to command the Defiant. The ceremony was held in a massive hall designed to accommodate multiple species. Humans in formal uniforms stood on one side. Vextari in ceremonial armor stood on the other. Dozens of other species sent observers, curious to see this unusual alliance formalized. High Matriarch Velsina gave a speech. Her voice, translated into dozens of languages, filled the hall. Today, the Vextari Empire formally recognizes humanity as our ally and equal. We have fought beside them. We have seen their courage. We have witnessed their unique approach to combat and survival. She paused, looking directly at Jake. When we first encountered humans, we believed they were insane. They laughed while fighting. They made jokes in the face of death. They treated combat as if it were some kind of game. We did not understand this behavior. It seemed illogical, irrational, dangerous. But we were wrong. They do not laugh because they are fearless. They laugh because they are afraid and refuse to let that fear control them. They face the darkness with light. They face despair with hope. They face death with humor. This is not madness. This is wisdom we are only beginning to comprehend. The Vextari have ruled this sector for thousands of years through strength and discipline. These qualities have served us well. But humans have taught us that there are other forms of strength. The strength to laugh when laughter seems impossible. The strength to hope when hope seems foolish. The strength to face impossible odds and choose joy over surrender. We welcome humanity to the galactic community. We pledge to defend them as they have defended us. We commit to learning from them as they learn from us. And we look forward to discovering what we can accomplish together. The hall erupted in applause, not just from humans and Vextari, but from many of the observer species as well. Whatever they thought of humanity's strange psychology, they could respect what had been achieved. After the formal ceremony ended, there was a reception. This was the part Jake had been dreading. Formal mingling with dozens of alien species making small talk, being diplomatic. It was much harder than combat, but it turned out to be more interesting than he expected. A Zendari philosopher spent 20 minutes asking him about human comedy traditions. A trader from the Krell Commonwealth wanted to discuss business opportunities. Even a representative from the cautious Gravok clans approached, though he kept a careful distance. Admiral Morrison, the Gravok said. He was a massive creature built like a tank with thick armor plating instead of skin. My people consider yours to be dangerous and unpredictable. I've heard that, Jake said carefully. We don't mean to be threatening. You misunderstand. We do not fear you because you are threatening. We fear you because we do not understand you. The Gravok value predictability. We value knowing what our enemies will do. But you humans, you laugh at death. You make jokes in combat. You do things that make no logical sense but somehow work. This is deeply unsettling to us. Jake thought about how to respond. We're not trying to be unpredictable. We're just trying to survive. And for us, humor is part of survival. I understand that's hard for other species to grasp. But maybe understanding isn't necessary. Maybe respect is enough? The Gravok was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Respect, yes. That at least humans have earned. We may not understand you. We may never understand you. But we respect your effectiveness, and we will not be your enemies. That's all we can ask for, Jake said. Across the room, Commander Zarthok was having his own interesting conversation. He was talking with Danny Wright, who had also been invited to the ceremony. The two had become unlikely friends over the past months. I have been practicing, Zarthok said. He looked nervous, which was unusual for the stoic Vextari commander. Practicing what? Danny asked. Humor. You said I should learn to make jokes. I have been studying human comedy. Zarthok paused. Why did the plasma conduit cross the ship? Danny grinned. He remembered Zarthok attempting this joke before. I don't know. Why? To get to the other side before it exploded. There was a moment of silence. Then Danny burst out laughing. Several nearby humans and even a few Vextari turned to look. Danny's laughter was infectious. Soon other people were smiling even if they didn't know what the joke was. That was terrible, Danny said when he caught his breath. Absolutely terrible. But you're getting better. Keep practicing. Zarthok looked confused. But you laughed. How can it be terrible if you laughed? Because sometimes the worst jokes are the funniest. Don't ask me to explain it. Human humor is complicated. Danny clapped Zarthok on the shoulder. Welcome to being human adjacent, Commander. It's going to be a weird journey. Later, Jake found himself standing with Kyle, Amy, Alex, Lisa, and Danny. The core group that had started this whole adventure 6 months ago. They were watching the party, seeing humans and Vexitari mingling, seeing representatives from dozens of species observing humanity with curiosity instead of hostility. We changed things, Kyle said quietly. We actually changed things. By being ourselves, Amy added. By refusing to pretend to be something we're not. By laughing at inappropriate times, Alex said with a grin. By being crazy, Danny contributed. Let's not forget the crazy part. We're not crazy, Lisa said. We're human. There's a difference. Jake looked at his friends, his crew, his fellow survivors. 6 months ago,